Every single year, at least one team goes from the bottom of their division all the way to the top in a matter of one off season. So today we're going to be breaking down the 8 last place finishers from last year in their divisions and looking at them and saying who has the best shot to go worst to first in 2025. Of course, some teams need a miracle, like the Cleveland Browns. Others just need a few breaks, and they can actually be the team that does this season. Of course, drop your predictions down in the comments section. Let's get into it. Now, my Cleveland Browns are a mess. They were 3-14 last year after a promising 2023. And honestly, if we want any chance in the world at getting 5 wins this year, we need the entire roster to play at their best. But in order to go from worst to first, it's very, very simple. And you're going to hear me say this a lot here on today's video. Play great defense and protect the football. If you can do those two things, you at least give yourself the best chance possible. But for the Cleveland Browns, outside of everybody else in the division getting hurt, we have no chance. I'm going to say a 1 out of 10. There's a little bit of hope in New York because you have such a talented defensive front and Malik Nabers. But I think in order for this team to go from worst to first, they need Malik Nabers to be the offensive player of the year. And they need this defensive line to play at a top 5 level, which no doubt they have the talent to do so. Now with the addition of Abdul Carter into the mix of an already great defensive line. But in New York, of course, you need Russell Wilson to turn back the clock a little bit, get to be, I guess, be unlimited again, and play like Seattle Russell Wilson. Ultimately, though, you have such a tough division where even if these things do happen, where Malik Nabers has a killer season and this defensive front is awesome, you still are in a very tough division where you could lose these close games and still not have a winning record. So ultimately, with their division, they have the talent. Still, though, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10. Now, Vegas was very busy this offseason, most notably for their football team, but they need some magic going into this year because just like the Giants, they have the talent, but they're in a very tough division. Last year, 4-13, of course, they had to bring in a new regiment with Pete Carroll leading the charge here, and the question for me is, can he match Jim Harbaugh's impact from year number 1 like he had on the Chargers last year? Pete Carroll needs to do that for the black and silver this year. But if Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers can dominate offensively, this offense can compete with anybody. I am kind of a sleeper fan of Geno Smith this year. I think he's going to be playing at a Pro Bowl level. And honestly, this team, if they can get a 500 record in their division, they can make something happen if they get some things to go their way. But ultimately, though, with their tough division and ultimately, it's just a very tough road ahead, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Now, the Titans were 3-14 last year, and they had the number 1 overall pick, and they chose, hopefully, their next franchise quarterback in Cameron Ward. We at least know Warren Moon is a believer because he unretired his number to give it to the rookie. But this is a defense that must just stay solid. Last year, I think they were second in yards allowed per game. Granted, they were getting blown out, so other teams didn't need to air it out. Still, this defense played very well last season, and outside of losing Chidobe Awuzie, this defense only got better. The question for me with this team, as long as they can protect the football, play good defense, can Cam Ward have a similar impact to what CJ Stroud did in 2023 and what JD Daniels did in 2024? If he can do that, they definitely got a shot because I think this division is pretty wide open. So for that reason, again, they're not as talented as some teams below them, but given their division, and that's what matters most, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. At 5-12, the Carolina Panthers finished off last season with, I think, 3 or so wins towards the tail end. Regardless, they had a lot of momentum to close off last season, and honestly, they need the momentum from not only their team, but their quarterback, most importantly, Bryce Young, to continue and build his confidence at the NFL level. If he can bring that momentum from last year into this year, in this wide open division, they have a shot as long as this defense can take a little bit of a step up, be about league average level, and we can get good years from your rookies, most notably Ted McMillan, which I don't think there's any issues with that. He should have a great rookie season. This is a team that has a shot. Again, same argument as Tennessee. They're not as talented as the teams below them, but with their division being a little bit more wide open than others, I'm going to give them also a 5 out of 10. Now, the Chicago Bears feel like the trendy pick to go worst to first this year as they went 5-12 last year, and honestly, that season really turned around after that failed Hail Mary attempt, right? Shout out to Tyreek Stevenson. But Caleb Williams brings excitement. Let's not forget that he was looked at to be a generational first overall pick at the most important position, which is the quarterback. But going into this year, I think with a Ben Johnson led offense, they're not only going to protect the football better, but they're going to make Caleb Williams' job easier, running the football, having easier passing concepts, getting his confidence built up throughout the entirety of the season. So in these big time divisional games, they have the roster and the confidence from their quarterback to get some of these big time wins. Outside of that, when the running game, I don't know who the running back's going to be. Is it going to be DeAndre Swift? Personally, if you follow my draft channel, I'm a big Kyle Monangai fan, man. He's built low, but he runs lower, and he's just a tank on the field. If he can be their bell cow kind of David Montgomery running back, I love the chances for the Bears this year. But again, it all starts with Caleb Williams. If he can take a step up, they got as good a chance as any to be worst to first this year. But given the fact that they had three teams in their division with 11 wins last year, it's going to be tough. I have no doubt that they can make a playoff push, but win the division, I think it's pushing it. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Now, I think the other top option is the New England Patriots. As last year they were 4-13, they protected Drake May this offseason and in the draft, filling up this roster using the abundance of salary cap that they had, and Mike Vrabel is leaving his mark. But it's really simple for New England, right? You have two teams in this division in Miami and the Jets that aren't the greatest, and they're actually on the downwards trend for their organization. So it is really you and the Buffalo Bills fighting for the top spot in this division. If you can play Mike Vrabel football, which is tough defense, get after the quarterbacks, but protect the ball offensively, kind of like the Chargers did last year, I can see this team with the easiest schedule in football, by the way, based on last year's standings. They can be a 10-win football team. Now, you'll need a little bit of a down year from Buffalo, as last year was looked to be a down year, and they still had, 12 or 13 wins? So you'll need Buffalo to come back down to earth a little bit, be a 10, 11-win football team. But if you can do that and be at least split the season series with Buffalo, you might have a chance with tiebreakers to actually win this division. So for New England, I like what they did this offseason. I believe in Drake May, and I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. Now, the 49ers are on their, annual up year, down year trend that they've seemingly done in the Kyle Shanahan era. Last year was a down year, so history tells us they're going to be pretty dang good this season. And the formula for San Francisco to go from worst to first, yet again in this division, is simple. It's to stay healthy, man. They had so many injuries last year after that Super Bowl run that just kind of depleted their season from the start. And honestly, their season never really got started with all the injuries that they did have. Robert Saleh did return, and he made his mark in the NFL draft. The first 5 picks for the San Francisco 49ers were all on defense. Robert Saleh came back and he said, "What happened to the trenches that I built before I left to be the head coach of the New York Jets?" Well, he's doing a pretty good job at rebuilding that at this point in time. As long as Brock Purdy can show up, show out, and elevate some of these younger weapons like Jawan Jennings, who I guess is a veteran at this point, like Ricky Pearsall, and some of these backup options like Isaac Guerendo, if Brock Purdy can get the most out of these guys with Kyle Shanahan, they probably have the best chance because, well, they've been there, they've done that, and they have a veteran group top to bottom. So I will also give them a 7 out of 10. Now, you'll notice I didn't give anybody an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 because, well, these teams were last in their division just last season. So I don't want to get overzealous and say a 10 out of 10 because, for example, the Chiefs are a 10 out of 10 for me as far as can they win their division. Honestly, that's a bad take because that division's loaded. But you guys get the picture. 10 out of 10s is for like the best of the best teams in the league, the Buffalo Bills status, right? But that's going to do it here, man. Leave your comments down below. Who do you think has the best chance to go worst to first in 2025?